Okay, welcome to our weekly webinar. This is for our Escalate Mobile Learning Special Interest Group and for the AJET. And with us today we have Patria Redmond, all the way from Australia, and Victorio from the office with his lovely turquoise headphones on. So we'll probably get a few more people join us as we go along, but all watching later. We've got one person watching the stream. And hopefully we'll get some more people watching as we go. So today, thought we'd talk about altmetrics, alternative metrics, research impact, how you can leverage social media and some of the tools that perhaps you use either professionally or socially to really enhance your impact in educational technology and research output. Victoria's just pouring himself a cup of tea, I hope.
Yes,
that's what he's doing.
Sorry.
And yeah, so a part of this has sort of come from doing a guest editorial for AJET for the Escalate journal, the Australasian Society for Computers and Learning in Tertiary Education. It's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it, really? Escalate's much better. And AJET, the journal. Patria, myself, and Linda Corrin put together an outline of altmetrics and social media as a guest editorial, and I think people got a little bit interested in that, so which is great. So I'm just going to jump into some screen sharing, and feel free to ask questions as we go along. You know, Victoria, try to be intelligent, and I'm just going to screen share a little bit, so it's not just my face. Okay, so this is the guest editorial for AJET, which is pretty hot off the press, really. And we titled it Technology Enhanced Learning, Research Impact and Open Scholarship. So really trying to get that overlap between how can we leverage the tools we use every day as practitioners, and particularly in technology enhanced learning, to increase research impact, and also to have a focus upon open scholarship. We just sort of scroll down the article a bit. What I wanted to go down to was pretty much the sort of the conclusion. So it may be a little bit hard for you to read, but you can go to the link, go to the AJET site and find it as one of the latest articles there. So basically we sort of looked at different types of social media, different types of impact. There's journal elements, so that's your sort of traditional impact type factors, which come from the databases like Scopus, Web of Science, etc. Article elements, once again, these sort of traditional metrics based around citations, reads, downloads, and increasingly other forms of metrics like altmetrics. And then we have more focused around the author. So I guess this is where you're building up your own profile, your own research impact profile. And I quite like sort of likening it to being an artist. You know, being a researcher is a bit like being an artist. You're not judged on one research article, you're judged on your body of work. Same as an artist is not judged just on one picture or artifact. It's on their body of work. And how can we leverage that body of work? How can we make more impact out of that? So some of the ways you can do this beyond the traditional ones are looking at things like ORCID, which is the Open Researcher and Contributor Identifier, which is a great way of creating a hub linking all of your professional online profiles and social media. Google Scholar, of course, and then various social research networks such as ResearchGate, Academia.ed, LinkedIn, Mendeley, and Publons. So I wanted to have a look a bit at Publons today because it might be one that people don't know of that much. And certainly until we started having a look at this late last year and early this year, I hadn't really engaged with Publons myself, and it's been quite interesting. So looking at altmetrics, why altmetrics? Because it basically allows us to gather together a whole range of social media. So the thing with altmetrics, it's an alternative way of measuring impacts. It's more about the discussion in social media around your research output rather than having to wait years and years for a citation to come through. So your traditional citation metrics, of course, you've got to get published in a journal first, and then people have got to read your work, and then they've got to publish their own articles that cite you. So that can be a very, very long process, and obviously weights more towards the later career researcher. So the types of data that for instance, Altmetrics checks or looks at is probably a useful way of choosing the types of social media and networks that you want to engage with as a researcher, because these are the ones that, for instance, Altmetrics checks. So blogs, so if you've got a WordPress blog, a whole variety of blogs, Altmetrics checks those. And what it's checking for is a DOI, document, digital object identifier. So if you have mentioned the DOI of a research output in a blog post, then it's quite likely to get tracked through Altmetrics and give you analytics. How many people have read that, how many people have commented on it, how many people have tweeted it, etc. So the mainstream media, as far as social media goes, Facebook, okay, well, I'm not much of a Facebook user myself, but yeah, Facebook's there, but Twitter I certainly use a lot, and I find it a very powerful tool for creating a global network around education technology. So if you tweet, the key with any of this is including that DOI in your post, in your tweet, in your whatever you're doing with social media. So making sure you're linking back to the actual article itself is the key to get this tracked. Google Plus, we use Google Plus a lot. LinkedIn, which is perhaps more of a professional, portfolio for people trying to get a job, I suppose. Pinterest has certainly grown in popularity a lot. It's no longer the domain of people making doilies and selling them online.
Oh, now you are interested on Pinterest?
No, not me, but my wife is. But yes, particularly in visual design. So a lot of visual design students and professionals are using Pinterest now.
Yes,
architects
yes.
using Pinterest.
Visual communication.
Yeah. So it's certainly gone beyond the, just the doilies. Other ones, so YouTube. If you have a YouTube video, maybe it's an interview, maybe it's like we're doing today, which is a Hangout seminar, and you have a link to the DOI that's going to come through there as well. And then there is, yes, post-publication peer review platforms. And these are the ones that I weren't really that aware of until I started looking at it. PubPeer and Publons. So Publons is a way of getting credit for your review activity. So I guess as an academic, a big part of our job that we're expected to do is do a whole lot of free work for journal companies and reviewing, and they make lots of money out of it. But we get the academic kudos as part of our profile. Publons is a great way of curating that and showing that activity. So initially, I kind of thought, well, Publons is just another way of doing some free reviewing for another company, but it's not that at all. It's actually about your profile, your review activity, and curating that. So I think it's actually a really good platform because most of that usually isn't visible. How do you show that to your manager? How do you show that you're actually really active in, maybe you're on associate editor or editor of a journal, apart from your names there? How do you show what that activity is? And Publons is a great way of doing that. So I'm going to show you that shortly. So here's just an example of what Altmetrics looks like. This is an article did in 2014. And what it gives you is this sort of Altmetrics ring. And depending on how many different types of social media that has been curated, you'll get different colors in that ring. So this one's predominantly Twitter. So it's 40 tweeters, 18 dimensions. And I've got to say, I never heard of dimensions until today, but it's kind of like another interesting way of curating output. Mendeley readers. So those are the three that this particular article has been mentioned on. You can see with the Twitter demographics, it gives you a nice map, shows you who's read it where. So that's nice feedback. Slack Australians. Anyway. You know, it gives you interesting feedback. Mendeley is a bit like EndNote. If you haven't tried Mendeley, it's a bibliographic tool that you can integrate into Word and Pages if you're on Mac. But it's also a social network. It did get bought by Elsevier, but they seem to be keeping it relatively open, which is a good thing. So you get stats from Mendeley readers as well, ties into the Scopus database. And then you can check how well does your article do compared to other articles. And you can see that, you know, without trying very hard, this article is in the top 5% of all research outputs scored by Altmetric, which, you know, it's quite cool, really. And we didn't have to do too much apart from tweet it when it was published and then see if other people were interested in that tweet and retweeted it, and if they've read it and decided to tweet it. And once again, the key is making sure you put that DOI into the tweet. Okay, so there's the DOI there. So this is dimensions, and this is more about citations, trying to curate citations. So it's kind of linking back into more traditional citation metrics. And I haven't had time to really explore dimensions too much, but it's kind of interesting. So it's giving you another badge. Publons. Okay, so this is my profile on Publons. So basically, it's another social research network that you sign up for. And you can link it to other research identifiers such as OrcID, Researcher ID, and so you can get it to automatically pull in your content from your Researcher ID profile and push it out to your OrcID profile. So if you have an OrcID profile, you can curate inside of Publons your review and editing activity and then push that out to your OrcID. And so your OrcID becomes a great place of pulling all of your research activity, your impact, your review activity all together in one place. So that's really nice. So under Publons, you basically get a profile. So your profile, obviously you can have a bio. I've thrown my generic profile in there, and your profile basically records your core activity with reviewing for journals and if you're on editorial boards, etc. So you can link in here any editorial board memberships. So editor records are more for editor activity. So I'm an associate editor for AJET, and so I can pull that work together there. So if I click on it, it should load that up, hopefully. It's going very slowly. Anyway, we'll let that go in the background. It shows you your various journals that you reviewed for. And the way to do that is either the journal needs to subscribe to Publons. Currently, AJET doesn't. Or when you get that email from the editors saying thank you for your review, you flick that off to Publons, and they have an email address that they go and then check your activity that you've sent them. It normally takes a day or so, and then they add that to your profile. So I presume there's someone sitting in an office somewhere checking these emails, making sure that you actually did do it, and then verifying that and putting that on your profile. So it's quite a nice process, and it's about what you've done. So you also get some stats. So it gives you a comparison between yourself and all Publons users. So I guess the thing there is the median to compare yourself against. So the median for reviewers on Publons is having done 3 reviews. It's not a whole lot, really. As you can see, I do a fair bit more than that. Reviews in the last 12 months. So most people do 1 a year. So if you do more than that, it's a good way of showing that you're actually, you know, perhaps working harder than the average. So those stats are quite nice, and also gives you a little bit of an overview as well of the impact factor of the journals that your review activity is based around. So it gives an average, which is the pink. And I would assume that these ones right at the top end here are probably health type journals because they seem to have a really, really high impact factor. Unfortunately, most of my work is in social sciences, so it gets down around here, but it gives you, an overlay of how you compare. And then reviews over time. Now, because I've only really just started using Publons in the last year, that's why that activity drops off there. Because finding those emails from years ago was a pain in the ass. So I just decided to start fresh, basically. Yeah, it's nice if the editors of the journal push that button and send you the thank you for doing your review, because then you can just forward that email to Publons. If they forget to do that, then it's a bit of a manual process. You have to go and find some evidence from the journal and then forward that to Publons. So a bit of a hint there for editors. Make sure you tick the button and send the thank you feedback to reviewers. So it's a nice way for them to get credit for what they're doing. Have you had a play with Publons, Patria?
I have. After talking to you, I set myself up just to see what it looked like, pretty much. And so when you were looking at your profile, I was looking at mine. and I'm the same. I funnily enough, I did a journal review just the other week, and it actually had all of my reviewing that I've done from that journal in the same space. So I just took a screenshot of that and set it to edits at Publon, and they've just put that straight into my Publons account. So I should remember to do that when I'm, if it's the same journal that you've done some reviewing for several times, that's actually useful if it keeps a record of those things, so you can just send them on. And I didn't notice previously, but I noticed there's editor merit.
Yes, yes.
So I'm right now, as we're speaking, actually going, I haven't worked out how to see which two editorial records are in there so I know which ones they need to add. But I thought I'd send them all of the ones that I have and see what happens. They're pretty responsive, and it's very quick.
Yeah, I'm quite impressed, actually. And it's about you. It's about your profile. It's not about you feeding, doing work for them, which is kind of what it sounds like to start with, but it's not actually that at all. It's about building your profile and giving you credit for your work. So yeah, the editor stuff I found really interesting as well. So with that, it's a separate forward email address, and what you forward them through is your decision email. So once again, I guess it's just getting into the habit of ticking the little box in whatever software you're using for editing that to forward yourself the decision email, so you can then forward that on to Publons. Unless the journal you're editing for subscribes. So BJet, I do a lot of reviewing for BJet, have done so for many years. They started subscribing to Publons earlier this year, so that's made my life easier. Be nice if AJet did too, but I don't know. I presume there's probably some sort of...
It is on the list of things to consider, so don't give up hope yet.
I imagine it costs something.
I have a question about how it connects to your ORCID ID, because I did do that connection, but I'm still not clear what that does.
So I'm not sure if my screen sharing still works, but I'm just going to try it again anyway and go back to that. I think it must have dropped off. There we go. So you see my screen again now?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So with your ORCID, it's somewhere in your profile settings that you put in your ORCID. I think probably under settings here. So obviously you need to create an ORCID first, and then you effectively link it to Publons, and it's sort of something you do once and then forget where it is. But I think it's in the settings, probably under account or something here somewhere. I have to have a quick check. But what it actually ends up doing under your ORCID profile is it then pushes through your review and editing work, and that becomes a section on your ORCID, which is probably right down the bottom. Here it goes. There we go.
Yeah.
Which is really nice. So just like ORCID can link straight into Researcher ID and Scopus and pull those straight automatically into your profile whenever you publish anything in those databases. It does the same for your activity on Publons. So this is my activity on Publons. So I'm supposed to do it automatically. I have found just the same with Scopus and with Publons that occasionally I need to go into Publons and Scopus and re-push the button that says, you know, synchronize with OrcID, and then it updates.
Because I've just gone into mine and I don't have any of my reviewing is there. So somehow I need to do that syncing.
Yeah. So in your Publons settings, once you find the OrcID link, it may not start automatically updating. So occasionally, every now and then, I just go in and push the resync button, and they just automatically appear back into OrcID.
Okay.
Which is nice. Okay, so that's kind of really all I wanted to go over. I'll just stop screen sharing. So, Victoria, did you have any intelligent questions for us? This is your test.
This is my test, okay. Yeah. Yes, I would like to know if you have any tool that used to visualize data. You are talking about a lot of recollecting data, reading the metadata from different sources, social media, and different platforms. How you communicate that visually, all that data?
Yeah, so I guess that's one of the nice things about Altmetrics is it does give you a badge. So there's a visual badge, and that badge is made up of multiple colors depending on how many of the social networks your research has been mentioned on. And so that badge gets more and more colors as it's been, you know, curated across different platforms. And they give you that graph, so that graph's very nice and visual as well, shows you who's read it where around the world. With Publons, once again, they give you graphical imagery of how you're doing in comparison to other people as well. So there is that visual element there. What about mainly sort of graphical?
Graphical, no interactive.
When you click on an Altmetrics badge, it takes you to the page for that, that article. So there's a little bit of interaction there.
Okay.
Maybe this could be, you know, something you could develop an app for.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go for a talk soon. I've been invited. When is it?
So for those who don't know, Victoria is involved in our app development and EPUB development. So his brain is whirring away, going, "How can I, you know, do a project out of this?" And I'm pretty sure there isn't currently an Altmetrics or an OrcID app as such. They're all web-based. So this could be a project for you. You know, maybe it could be a big seller in the academic world.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, yes. Basically, you know, there's people who, you know, they're interested on use a lot of graphics and a lot of infographics, but right now there is trends that are coming how you implement interactivity into those graphics and in infographics that they are fed by data. So I'm quite interested on working on those flows, visual communication, but at the same time, data feed those kind of graphics and infographics.
Yeah, I think that's quite a nice idea, because rather than just being a textual list, something graphical can have a lot more impact if you want to show people your output.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, any other questions from you, Petria? Anything you want to talk about, or you're busy updating your profile?
I'm busy. I just linked my LinkedIn account to Publons, actually. I think with a lot of these things, you really have to go in and play before you really know whether it's going to work for you or not. It's a bit like most software, isn't it? You just have to have a play and then kind of work out whether it's going to be useful for the purpose that you think it's going to be useful or not. So I would encourage people to do that.
Yeah, and I think what we're trying to do is recommend what we have found useful. So rather than go, okay, I've got no idea if this is useful or not, or whether it's just spam, we're trying to give people some hints on, yeah, we think this works and it's a good idea, so it's worth investing some time in. Hey, well, thank you, everyone. I hope you found that interesting, and we have got a few people watching live as well, so hello, and I hope you've enjoyed this webinar, this week's webinar. So tune in next week. We'll have another guest next week, someone more interesting than me, and hope you enjoy the webinar series. Thank you, Patria. Thank you, Victoria.
Thanks, Tom.
Catch you later.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.